2 o'clock. So what I'm going to talk about for the next roughly 20-30 minutes or so is how to use social media effectively, for the benefit of your business. It's not really a how-to, this is how to set up a Twitter account. It's more what value can you get out of it as a farmer, as a farm business, as a rural business. I've just put a couple of things up on the screen here. So my Twitter account name is Halo42. I'm going to be talking about AgriChatUK and explaining more what that is. And if you're familiar with Twitter, on Twitter, these are the two hashtags to use. Now I'm most familiar with Twitter, so I'm going to use examples of Twitter throughout my presentation. But please don't think it's just about Twitter. These can be used as examples of social media in general, whether it's for Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn. So about 4 years ago, I first came across Twitter. I was doing an assignment in my final year of university. It was a business assignment, and the lecturer threw 10 random websites, social networking sites at us and said, demonstrate how you can communicate online and incorporate into your assignment. And as these things go, Twitter was one of them, and the other 9 I've never heard of since. So in terms of a general arena, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, these are large, popular ones, but there's at least 100 times, if not 1,000 times more similar sites out there that no one ever hears of or that are very niche. And if that's one important tip to take away straight away, is that don't try and be on everything. Choose one. Choose one that's going to work for your business. What's the best one? Where is your audience? Where's your target audience you want to meet? And do that well. So like I said, it's talking about how you can use it for the benefit of your business. So in terms of the other things we'll cover, and to give it a bit of context, earlier in the year I wrote my postgraduate thesis, 20,000 words, all about how to use social media. What is the value of social media to the rural industry? And I came up with some conclusions, and I'd like to share some of those with you as well. And then I'm also involved with AgriChatUK, which I'll explain more about in a minute, which is an online discussion forum that happens on Twitter at the moment every week. But if nothing else, it provides a platform, a voice for people to contribute to such discussions about pressing rural issues that they might not normally get involved with otherwise. So I just had a couple of slides here that I thought you might find interesting in terms of the history of social media. So I'm using the term social media as an umbrella term to include really digital communications. So email, that is social media. Text messaging, I class that as social media because it's using technology to share information. So first email was sent in 1971. Tim Berners-Lee's company, 1989, World Wide Web came along. 2.5 million internet users in 1990. What else is interesting on there? Hotmail came in 1997. 6degrees.com, potentially the first online social network, trying to take that aspect of you're only ever 6 people away from anyone else in the world and using that something I call a weak tie network, which I'll explain more about in a bit. Napster, anyone remembers that? Wikipedia came in 2001. Now this is interesting on the next slide. Who would have thought that LinkedIn actually came before Facebook? LinkedIn's been around since 2003, but has only really kind of maybe got its own little niche in the past 2 or 3 years in terms of developing it as a business social network. Twitter came in 2006. YouTube, and then in the past couple of years we've had, as I said, there's lots always coming on board, but Pinterest, you might be familiar with that, Pinterest, Google Plus, and where we are now roughly, I mean this was 2012, so it's going to be another year onto this, but we've now got an internet population of 2.5 billion users, 500 million Facebook users, Twitter users, 1 billion Facebook users, and in context, for an example, 400 million tweets are sent every day. Now, something that's always thrown back at me is, well, I can't be on Twitter every single second of the day. How can I see what's happening? And in that sense, it is a little bit different from Facebook, because on Facebook, you go onto your phone, whether you start from where you last viewed from or at the top of the page, and you scroll down, you think, oh yes, that's where I was up to yesterday. I've seen what's happened since then. But Facebook, it's a breaking news source. Depending on how many people you follow or how many tweets your followers put out there, there's so much information, you drive yourself crazy if you try to keep up with everything. So I think you've just got to accept what you see at that time. You've got to accept that that's what's out there. And more importantly is, are you getting value from the time you're spending on there, whether it's a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. When people say it's a waste of time, or I can't be bothered doing that, well, I'll come on to it. If you don't have a strategy and objectives set up in the first place, of course it's going to be a waste of time. Because whether you're wanting to get 100 new followers in a month or £1,000 of sales, if you haven't got a strategy or objectives, then of course it's going to be a waste of time because you don't know what you're going on there for. How many people remember this tweet, David Cameron's famous words before he became a convert himself? I'll let you fill in the gap. But we've seen in the past 2 years, government adopting this technology more because they know in terms of policy, this is a good way of gaining views on different subjects that they want to get out there. And it's a good example that if you're not already on social media, then yes, potentially your competitors or your rivals might have jumped ahead of you, but it's never too late to start. And in terms of saying it's never too late to start, if your sole purpose is to use it as a listening resource to find out what other people are doing on there, that is equally as valuable and objective as posting 100 tweets a day. How I best understand it for myself is I interpret it's built on 3 pillars: information sharing, knowledge exchange, and making new connections. And every time I go on to Twitter, I try and think in my mind, I want to do a little bit, a third of each. So whether it's sharing a bit of information, something new that's happening in the rural industry about cap reform or some other news article, that's sharing information. Whether I've got an opinion to say on something, I'll say that as well. But also I'll engage with my followers. Oh, what are you up to? I might see a tweet that they put out there and think, oh, that's interesting, but I don't know who you are. And suddenly you find that you're familiar with these people on the technology, and you actually walk around a show like this, bump into them face to face. I've never met them before, but you're already familiar with them. And if for nothing else, specific to the rural industry that is, beset by rural isolation, people in, spread out everywhere. It's easy for example, for a farmer down in Kent or Cornwall to be conversing with other farmers in Northumberland or the Highlands, sharing information about yield, crops, weather, and that's actually creating a holistic educational service, so to speak, by the farmers themselves. So what the NFU, CLA, other organisations maybe have cottoned onto in recent months is that if they can create an online following, a reputation, they can get potentially a large amount of farmers to be tweeting out their message, to be advocates for the industry, really. So I don't, in my personal view, it's not a question of whether social media can now be of added value, but how, and that's important. How do you want to use it? What's your strategy going to be? So in terms of this concept of change, social media, I've written down here, is potentially the single most important disruptive technology we now have in our landscape because of that. So some just might be interesting for you here. I just took the NFU, Farmers Guardian, Farmers Weekly and DEFRA, and we can see that 17,000, 18.5, 31, 52,000 followers. This means that, in the sake of DEFRA, 52,000 people have decided that following their tweets is important to them, whether it's just knowing what they're up to or wanting to have a dialogue with them. But I think this, let's not kid ourselves that it's the be-all and end-all. It's certainly a minority in terms of the amount of farmers that are on this technology in terms of overall in the industry. But talking about, oh, Twitter, it's like a cocktail party, or it's a fad or whatever. I don't think that does the service any benefit, and that people need to acknowledge now it's a powerful enterprise tool for your business. If you already have a website, if you already have a Facebook page, it makes sense to access the people on here as well. So whether if people say, oh, Facebook, I use that for personal stuff. Twitter, LinkedIn, that's my business professional profile. Twitter, it can flow between the two, and I think that's also important. How do you want to set yourself up on there if you're having an account? Are you going to be tweeting from a personal perspective, a professional perspective, or a business perspective? So if I'm, for example, following the NFU social media advisor, do I want to be logging on a Saturday morning, seeing that he's going out for breakfast with his kids or taking them swimming? Potentially not, because I've followed him, because I want to see what he says in that sense. So that's important. Keep it. The clue is in the name. It's social media. It's it's about sharing and being social, whether you're at the livestock market or down the pub. It's the same conversations. And I'll just comment also in that respect. And people do get in trouble with this. Don't be stupid. It's common sense. If you're not going to say something to someone's face, don't say it on an online forum where potentially you can get sued. Sally Burko, for example. So in terms of some different acronyms that you might come across, I'm going to be introducing some of these. So online social networks, that's one for you to remember. Social networking sites, they are Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. And as I said, social media is more the umbrella term. And in my research for my dissertation, what was interesting to find is that over the past few years, the value for me or others to keep logging on and sending tweets and to find out what others are doing is it's because these networks and communities of practice have evolved. I've just put 3 hashtags there, and as I said, it's not a how-to, but very quickly, a hashtag is like a content filter. So if I'm typing a tweet, I live on a dairy farm, or I'm involved in farming. If I put that hashtag symbol, which, let's be honest, none of us knew what it was other than it was on the bottom of our phone up until a couple of years recently. But if I put that hashtag symbol before farming in a tweet, that means that it becomes a clickable search term, and anyone else that's posted a tweet with that hashtag in, I can see what they're saying as well without having to follow them. So, for example, but don't make it too cumbersome at all. Don't have absolutely massive hashtags that you struggle to even comprehend. Make it very short and sweet. And in this respect, I'll talk more about AgriChatUK. But the team dairy is quite self-explanatory. This is dairy farmers across the country. You're most likely to see tweets with team dairy on them between the hours of 3 and 6 a.m. in the morning. That solidarity for the industry. We're driving the industry forward at 3 a.m. in the morning. Team dairy, best farmers out there. But it's a network where dairy farmers can connect and find other ones that have the same problems maybe. And certainly when they're sharing results of their TB tests, it's important for them to have that community aspect. Club Hectare was originally started, if I've got it right, by 14 arable farmers over on the eastern region, but I believe now has over 350 members and has evolved into more of a social farming network, where to be a member of Club Hectare you have to buy a t-shirt or a polo shirt or a tie that has the green and gold colours on and that hashtag. As I said, when you're walking around farming shows, you see someone with their Twitter name on the back of their t-shirt, and you go, oh, I know who he is. So it's giving people a sense and value and identity that, why shouldn't farmers be on Twitter? I often get social media and farming, how do those two go together? But I don't think you disagree that farming, technology and innovation in the same sentence are any unlikely bedfellows. So if we're talking about robotic milking, GPS, driverless tractors, why are we not talking about social media in the same sense? Dairy farmers get text messaging results of their milk quality scores on a daily basis. Potentially it could get tweeted, that information. So in terms of AgriChatUK, this is an initiative that myself and 3 others started the ball rolling in March 2012, in that there was as I've just used those examples, but if I only have 10 followers, for example, and I've got something really important to say on cap reform, but if those other 10 people aren't on at the time I'm posting that tweet, they haven't seen that message. So the idea was, let's come up with a forum, a discussion platform where once a week we can discuss the hot topics, the pressing issues, the biggest debates, and have a good discussion about it. So AgriChatUK is it's a 2-hour discussion every Thursday evening between 8 to 10 p.m. I was looking at some of the stats a couple of weeks ago, and in the last 5 weeks I think we added 1,200 followers. But it took us 5 months to add our first 1,200 followers. But that's not it's great to have nearly 9,500, but that's not the purpose at all. The purpose is to provide the outlet for people to have a voice on these platforms that might not put their hand up at a show or at a conference and ask a question. But online they can have an anonymous profile. They can tweet with a picture of a dog. No one knows who they are, but they're having a voice and they're having an input. And interesting, last week we took that concept to DEFRA directly and said, we know you've got this consultation out there about cap reform. We have between 100 and 150 people every week getting involved with our discussions. Do you want 150 responses to your consultation that potentially you wouldn't have got otherwise? And it took a bit of persuasion, but then when they realised they didn't have any work to do, we would do everything for them. They said yes, thank you very much. And if anyone understands trending on Twitter, so these are the top 10 trends at any one time on Twitter. We've trended regularly. We had an interesting discussion last October all about rural mental health issues that potentially you think, oh, is it still a taboo? Is it quite controversial? No, the most controversial ones and the more taboo subjects are the ones that people want to discuss because no one else is discussing them. And relationships, communication, this is at the heart of the agricultural industry. So again, why wouldn't social media make sense? But it's interesting, don't just broadcast at people. Like I said, just listening, that is a valid reason for joining. Make sure you're engaging with people as well. And in terms of, I had a note written down here. No, I've lost it, sorry. In terms of giving a voice to farmers, we had an initiative on the 16th of October, right, it's World Food Day. Oh, I know, there's a US version of us, there's an Australian version of us. Since us, there's now an EU version, there's one set up in Ireland, one set up in Holland. Why don't we try and bring them all together and effectively put it into practice? And on October the 13th, we had AgriChat World, that was the hashtag we used there. And we had over 700 farmers or interested individuals globally get involved. And they posted over 3,500 tweets, which delivered over 3.5 million timeline deliveries. That's to say, those tweets were hitting not 3.5 million individual accounts, but they were being seen that amount of time. This is very quick, this is very easy, it's built on text messaging functionality. It doesn't take 2 seconds to post a picture, post a tweet, and potentially you're getting your message out there a lot more quickly than you could otherwise. But the reason for my research really is that if I'm saying all this to you and you're saying, why? I still don't understand. Why should I do it? Give me some examples. If you go to the NFU, if you go to the CLA, you go to DEFRA, and I'm not picking those people out, but they're representative of the industry, you will not find a document out there at the moment that explains why you should do it, what benefit is it of it, what benefit is it to your business. So I really wanted to do some research, and Twitter's an open forum, and potentially a lot of people, I could have gained their views and they could have contributed without knowing, but I thought I better do it the right way and ask them if they're happy for me to take their views. But for my research, I analysed 11,500 tweets to try and understand how people are using this technology. And what it came down to, and what I've made reference to there, in me trying to think what is the return on investment for people doing this, is actually, my interpretation is that what's the return on communication? So please don't believe that social media is free. Yes, it doesn't cost anything to sign up to these sites, but in terms of your time, and time is money, and that costs. So if I'm going on 6 times a day, 10 minutes each time, and then get to bed at the evening and think, hang on a second, I've spent an hour on social media, I could have potentially been charging for my time in my day job. Or, right, I've had to buy an iPhone, I've had to buy a mobile phone contract, I've had to buy a laptop, I've got to get broadband. That all costs money, so social media is not free. So you have to come up with a strategy. Who's your audience? What do you want to do with it? What messages are you trying to get out there? But also you then have to qualify what is the return for me. And as I said, if you just want to be social and to find more people and to connect with us in the industry, that's great. Now I've put a screenshot of this document up there. It was a foresight report document of January this year, an update maybe on the earlier report. And a term they used there was hyperconnectivity. And basically they were saying, we're now in an age where people are on their phones 23 hours of the day. If they're not on it, they're sleeping next to their phone. It's transcending social, personal, work boundaries. There's no escape from it, and people have got to be careful that they respect client confidentiality, or they get out into the open air, because I'm sure some employers think social media, does that mean I have to pay someone to sit in front of a computer from 9 to 5 just monitoring these streams? There are tools out there that let you do automation and everything, but that hyperconnectivity is the fact that the digital world is ever increasing on our lives. And in terms of the rural industry, the government's wanting to push people digital by default, whether it's doing your ELS or your single payment online or your capital recording. This is where it's going. So do view it in context, please. And in terms of context, I thought I'd just describe how the same message might be shared on a different number of sites, in terms of if you're still grasping, well, what's the difference between Facebook and Twitter? Why would I use it differently? So for Twitter, I'd say I'm eating a donut and put a hashtag in front of the donut, so I can see who else is eating a donut without actually having to find donut eating people. I just put a hashtag in front of it. But on Facebook, they want you to like stuff. So I like donuts, I want you to know that I'm a fan of donuts. I've set up a donut appreciation page. I like donuts. Now Foursquare is more of a location social networking service where you can log in and say this is where you are. So you'd say, I'm at the Farm Business Innovation Show. So you'd log into Foursquare and say, this is where I eat my donuts. Instagram is a photo sharing site. Where you can put filters on, so the message on there will be, here's a vintage photo of my donut. YouTube, very important in terms of social networking, which I'll come on to. You'd post a little 1-minute clip of you eating the most luxurious donut. Here I am eating a donut. This is the best way to eat it. LinkedIn, this is your online CV. You want to be telling people about the skills you've got. So I put, my skills include donut eating, and you get 4 people to verify that you're good at eating donuts. Pinterest, like I said, it's an online pin board where you can share recipes and different things with other people. So you've got, here's a donut recipe, and someone else might put, well, here's a donut recipe with my take on it. And then the other two, Last.fm is linked with radio, so you're now listening to donuts, and Google Plus. Apologies if it's a bit off the cuff, but perhaps it's not used by anyone other than Google employees at the moment. So I'm a Google employee who eats donuts. So like I said, my research, some other acronyms that come out of it, electronic word of mouth. So this might be a term that gets more traction going forward. Basically, it's us standing in this room, and if I look around and see that half the people have got their heads down, I think, are they asleep? No, they might be tweeting about it. So you're sharing what's happening in real terms. And sometimes I'm guilty of putting my hands up for too many things. Oh yeah, I'll give a talk on that without properly thinking it through. If I'm talking absolute rubbish, I'll log on to Twitter after this seminar and see that I've told you my account name, and Halo42 cannot eat donuts and he's talking rubbish. UGC, user-generated content. This is important because no one can force you to do anything on social media. It's driven by you. It's demand-led rather than supply-driven. So you are creating information. I mean, you take it to the extremes where, and this is potentially why I enjoy Twitter more than Facebook, is you go on someone's Facebook profile. Sometimes I think people just, they share all the good stuff. they share when they've got an award or something, but they don't share the bad stuff. Or if they do share the bad stuff, they say, oh my gosh, I've had the worst day ever. And your interest is piqued a little bit, and then someone will put a comment, oh, what's up? I can't tell you here, I'll direct message you. And you think, well, why are you sharing it on Facebook anyway? But it's user-generated content. And like I said, yeah, 11,500 tweets, and it was more the return on conversation. So B2C, which is business to consumer, B2B, business to business, and P2P, which is peer-to-peer. These are all different platforms that information is being shared on. So, anyone want to have a guess? How many percent of UK internet users interact on social media platforms? Anyone? 50? A little bit higher? 73. So about 73% of users currently interact on social media platforms, and they were just some responses we had for one of our AgriChatUK discussions. I think we asked, what do you use social media for? And we've got responses there. As a farming journalist, I use it for work, I use it to communicate thoughts on politics. It gives me great access to real opinions around the world. We ran a competition and we got suggestions there. We get views of the key influencers in our sector. And it brings it back again, listen to what others are saying. I'm sure you've all read the Farmers Weekly and the opinion writers, and you've seen that @ sign at the end of it, or various hashtags, and think, what the hell's all this on about? But basically, it's an online discussion of the same issues that are being talked about in print. And I have to read the Farmers Weekly and think, I've read about this on Monday. I saw this on Twitter on Monday. So whether print publishing will turn into digital publishing, just opinions rather than breaking news, who knows? But if we're talking about what benefit it can be to your business and everything I've said, what's the point if you can't even get broadband accessibility? And there was an update by the National Audit Office earlier this year that said actually it's not going to be 2015 now that we can do this rural broadband rollout. It's going to be another 2 years, so it's going to be 2017. So if you can't even get onto it, you're potentially losing out, because in isolated areas, yes, you might think, I'm a rural business, is anyone really interested in what I'm involved in? If you've got a product that's based around food, and you've got the whole population that might be interested in your product, not only are you getting to them, they are finding you. So it's an important economic driver as well, having internet access. But if you can't get on there, it's not acceptable really, in my view. It's a crying shame. People are missing out, and they need to get up to speed. So I've got some notable dates and figures here that you might find a little bit interesting. So 2011 was the first year that sales of mobiles and tablets was more than the sales of PCs and desktops. 189 million is the amount of Facebook users that solely access it through mobiles. 22% of all time spent online in 2012 was on a social networking site. 55 to 64 is the fastest growing demographic on Twitter, 79% growth since 2012. So please don't think it's for young people. Yes, young people have grown up with this technology and that they are more familiar with it. And as a business, you want to show that you are social media savvy by having people like that involved in your business, and you can know as well. But Club Hector, people that get involved in AgriChatUK, Team Dairy, it's not everyone under the age of 25, and I wasn't surprised by when I saw that figure. P2P, like I said, is peer-to-peer, and the second largest search engine after Google is YouTube. Video sharing is very popular. So how is Twitter being used within the industry? I'm conscious it's now 2:30, so I will try and speed up. Otherwise, I keep speaking forever. But so I'll go through the next slides and not slowly. But this chap here, looking for a lambing student again after being let down last minute, and potentially found 238 lambing students. So that was him sending out a tweet. He might have posted on Facebook, sent a few texts out, put it on a couple of websites. Potentially 238 people thought it was important to share, or that they knew someone that might be interested. I've got a tweet down there from Charles, First Time Farmers, if anyone saw that show on Channel 4, was it last year or early this year? it's an opportunity for the industry to I think it's sometimes a bit too insular. It doesn't take the initiative and think we're going to get some positive PR stories out about our industry out there. So let's engage with the public. It's not just engaging with other farmers, it's engaging with the public that are on there. And I mentioned YouTube. I'll refer to the bottom one first. Farmer Jake is a farm manager of a farm in Gloucestershire. Throughout harvest he will post 1-2 minute videos of him sat in his combine or his tractor cab telling people, I am planting this headland with wild birdseed because, or this is what a combine does, and look, you can see it from the tractor cab. So it's an educational aspect. And then at the top, the Peterson Farm Brothers in the US just decided one day that we'll do some parodies of some popular farming songs, but we'll base it on our farm, we'll use farming terms. And what's that? 13.5 million views of the first one. And if it's that easy and it doesn't cost anything to share something, why is the farming industry not using it more for educational purposes? So weak tie networks, I'll just make a quick reference to. So this is, if I just only ever communicate with my family and close friends, they're my strong ties, because they're the stuff I share with, personal stuff with on a daily basis. But these weak tie networks, based on we're only the 6 degrees of separation, is I don't know anyone in this room potentially, but by using the AgriChatUK account, we're connected through that, sharing information out there. So information goes quickly along weaker ties than it does stronger ties, because people are more inclined to share information out there rather than keeping it in their close-knit community. I came across this whilst I was doing my research, nice little acronym, I don't know if I'll catch on, FOMO, but it might explain people's reluctance sometimes of social media, or don't quite understand why their teenager can sit in front of the computer or the phone 24 hours a day. Fear of missing out. We're all potentially listening here now, and some of you on your phones and some of you not. But I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I missing out on by not being on Twitter? Is someone posting an interesting job opportunity that I can follow up with? What are my friends sharing? Who could I be Skyping? We've got to accept that you can't be on 24 hours a day. But when you do go on there, like I said, make sure you get value out of it. Now this information came from a company called Sumall, who is a data visualization company in the US. And it might not be totally appropriate, but they were saying revenue generated from a single business tweet was about £16, and revenue generated from a retweet was £13. Now that's probably not totally applicable in our situation, but if you have a Facebook page and a website already, by integrating a Twitter platform and having a voice on there, I don't think you'd disagree that if you're using it in the right way, you're finding a totally new audience potentially, so it's helping your business in that respect. 6 tweets a day is the optimal number. Between 12 to 4 p.m. is the best time to share content, and especially between 1 and 2 p.m. or 12 and 1 p.m. I can't remember which one, when people are on lunch. But don't expect that more tweeting will endear you to people, because if you were always posting tweets out there, no one will want to know what you say because you're just blocking up their timeline. So the goal isn't to be good at social media. The goal is to be good at business because of social media. Use it for your benefit if you can recognise that it has a particular function. Now, I ran an event earlier in the year called Twitter in the Farmyard. I co-organised a one-day conference which was very much introducing people to what social media is and to explain how to set up content and networks. And some of you may be familiar with something at the moment called the Rural Skills Framework, which delivers funded training to those involved in the food and farming industries. Across January, February and March in 2014, I'll be running some bite-sized versions of that conference I did. So it's going to be a 3-hour workshop, funded training through the RDP programme from government at a cost of £15 plus VAT for that 3-hour workshop. And I've already got 12 sessions lined up in association with the CLA in March across their different regions. So that is meant that those sessions will be, if you really want to start from the bottom up, or to know how and when to tweet and how to construct it, please do come along, because this funding is running out at the end of March 2014. So why not take advantage of it whilst you can? So if I've got a farming audience here, I want you to go away with some messages of trying understanding it. One, so approach it like you would do growing your crops. One, pick your crop. You're going to do Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, what's the most appropriate for you. Two, plant your seeds. Share content. Get a reputation, get credibility, get people to know that what you're sharing is of interest to them. And give it time to grow. Don't expect that you can share something today and tomorrow you'll have 1,000 followers. People it'll build over time. AgriChatUK has only been going 18 months and we've now got close to 10,000 followers. And when you think that the NFU's got 17,000 followers and we're just totally independent, it will grow organically. Four, community. So engage with others that you want to connect with farmers and rural businesses online, whether it's your competitors, whether you think you can have a strategic advantage to others, engage with others. Five, go to market, and this is where I link it back to your objectives. If you're trying to achieve sales or you're trying to achieve a certain amount of followers, make sure you have some tangibility that's coming back to you for your time you're spending online. Rotate your crops. So if you think, oh gosh, I'm building up a bit of credibility here, I know, I haven't tried this in a while, I'll now see what it is if I'm doing something on Twitter, and I'll see how it goes down on Facebook. Or I'll see what happens if I share some videos using YouTube. And seven, the risk control is really just approach it with common sense. Don't tweet something stupid or libel someone. And if you're a land agent, don't post on Saturday evening a link to your eBay page that you're selling an old pair of trainers, because you're a land agent. You need a personal account for doing that. So that's common sense. Now, some of you may be familiar with an account called Herder Shepherd 1, who has, I think, 13,000 followers now, and but shares pictures of his herd with sheep in the Lake District and his sheepdog and the way of life that he's involved in. And he did an article, I think that article was in the Guardian, and this one actually took his quote from the Atlantic, which I found online earlier in the week. So he said it was totally against the idea. Had an old Nokia phone, hey, between the trees and everything, they would make it upgraded, a free iPhone. Suddenly, my friends take pictures of the trip about, and suddenly I had this vast communications facility. Messages, and he said, for him, my tweeting is and has to be quick, dirty, and real. It takes me longer to take the picture or take a tweet than it would, just sending a text message and no point. Because he said that's not my job. My job is not to be on social media. My job is to do what I always do. But this might help share that. Rural isolation aspect. Sometimes it makes you feel a little less lonely because others are going through that. Or you might never come across. You only go to the auction mart once a month, or you might never come across that many people during the week. So it helps you connect with others. A new idea, a new technology empowers you to defend the old against the new, and some things are worth defending. So that was him qualifying that he still perhaps distrusts social media a bit. Actually, you know what? We're going to take advantage. We're going to use it for our purpose, to say that this is what we do with herd with sheep in the Lake District. These are the old ways, and it's important to recognise that if we're talking about upland farmers and do they get enough support. And then a couple of other quotes that I've just added in there. Technology is all about time, and eventually your time is money. So it's not something free to do. And in terms of the value of this communications medium and the power, the information is the power. Use it to make decisions, use it to make alliances. That's what social media is. And one message to leave you with that I've nicked from a speaker that came to talk at Twitter in the farmyard, and it's just, have a sense of reality with it. Remember, social media is like toothpaste. Once you've said something out there, it's really hard to get it back in the tube. So you can't take it away once you've said it. Yes, you can delete tweets or posts, but if someone else has taken a screenshot of it, or someone's got a negative perception of you, it's hard to change it. So in that sense, if activists in the industry or people that are against our farming practices are using it to get a response, to get us riled up, instead of letting them use it for our disadvantage, let's use it for our advantage. Let's talk about the positive stuff that's happening out there in farming, and like I said, hopefully that's been a bit of and insight into how it could be of benefit to your business as well. Thank you very much.